Hey there, welcome to Professor Purl, a YouTube channel about knitting and other crafts. I'm Nicole, and you can find me on Instagram as Prof Purl and on Ravelry as Prof Purl. There's an email for this, professorpurlpodcast@gmail.com, and also a Ravelry group, Professor Purl. So my last episode, in the comments section, I felt like there was an overwhelming response that people would be interested in doing a love note knit along with me, and this is a fairly new channel and this will be my first time hosting a knit along, so I thought I would make an introduction video called Love Note Love, where I show my 3 love notes and describe sort of the details about the knit along. So the first love note I made is this one, and I made it out of yarn that I got from a local yarn store called Firefly, I think it's Firefly Fibres, in Beaver Dam, Wisconsin. Before the pandemic, my husband and I had gone on a trip and did a little road trip through Madison, Wisconsin, went to some museums, and then went to Beaver Dam. And yeah, it was an incredible yarn store, and I knew that I wanted to pick up yarn for a sweater there, so I got some Asselin. I think it's called Lazu fingering. It was a while ago. So basically, I held one fingering and one mohair in this beautiful color. I knit a size medium, and I knit it cropped, and I think I knit it in 2 weeks. It was incredible. I think I knit it so quickly because the yarn is with the mohair, the silk in it. It's just so soft. I found the lace to be kind of addicting, so I just couldn't wait to get through it. And then I did the cropped version, so there's not much of a body. So after knitting the size medium and in this color, I couldn't stop thinking about this sweater and how it would be really awesome to have it sort of really oversized and in a bright color. So then I knit my second one. And the second one I knit was a size up. I again knit it in a fingering and a mohair together. This time I did it out of yarn from my, when I say local yarn store, I mean local like virtually, because I've got it from my friend Kelly, who dyes yarn and has a yarn store with Mouton Rouge Knittery in Illinois, and I don't live in Illinois, so it's not really local to me, but I really love this. I think I have it backwards. It was exactly, I'd never put a thing in the back, and so now I get confused, even though I did the high-low hem. If you hear barking, I don't have an animal, like a furry dog or cat. That's my child, which I guess technically we're animals, but anyway, nonetheless. So I knit this bright one, and I did it somewhere in between the crop length and the full length. I did it somewhere in between so I could wear it like tucked in and stuff. After knitting 2 mohair lace versions, I wanted to do something different, and so I went to a local yarn store here in Oregon with my friend, the Naughty Lamb, and there was this beautiful skein of yarn that was very bright, and then I also kept touching this Surrey. I'll be back. Alright, I'm back. Matilda was supposed to be napping, and she's 3, and that doesn't always happen. So, basically, I don't really know where I left off, so I'll just start over. After after knitting 2 love notes with the lace and with mohair, I knew that if I did it again, I would want it to be different. And so I went to a local yarn store to me, like physically local to me, the Naughty Lamb here in Oregon, and while there with a friend, I saw this beautiful skein of slub yarn, and I also saw some beautiful Surrey alpaca, and I just kept touching them and, you know, going back and forth, and so I didn't know what to do with them. And I guess just standing in the yarn store, I was like, I suppose I could just make another love note. And it was a very bright color, and the slub had a lot going on, so I decided to do it with no lace. And I think I've shown this on my episodes, and I haven't worn it yet. It's, even though I'm wearing this here today, it's actually like in the 80s Fahrenheit, and it's, you know, quite warm. So it's not quite our fall weather yet for wearing this, but I really like that I didn't do the lace on this. I just think it really just like lets the slub and the yarn shine. So I've knit 3 of them, and I really want to knit a 4th or a 5th. So like and I should say not 4th or a 5th. I want to knit a 4th and a 5th. So my 4th one, I would like to make one for my daughter. I do have some leftover mohair from this sweater, and I also have some really beautiful fingering yarn that I got on a trip that we took that I think would make it special. It was one of Matilda's like very first trips she ever took, and I had bought her some yarn to make her a cardigan. And I should say it was an international trip. We went to Sweden, and I bought this yarn at this local yarn store in Umeå, Sweden. I should look up and see what the name of the yarn store was. And I had these intentions of making a cardigan, but it never happened. And so I don't think I have enough fingering to make her a cardigan now out of it. But since this is knit at loose gauge, I think it would be enough to knit her a love note. So I am leaning towards doing, for the knit along, potentially doing a love note for her. But also, I think I could do that, maybe I'm being over ambitious, but I think I could do that in a week or 2. So I would also like to maybe knit a 5th one for myself. And since I've done 2 in mohair and 1 with Surrey, I think it would be fun to potentially, for my 4th one, do one that is a non-mohair Surrey version. And that kind of brings me to my point about the yarn choice, which is the yarn sort of recommends a DK sort of weight. So you can do a single DK, or you can hold a fingering in a mohair, or you can do a fingering and a Surrey. The gauge is pretty loose, and so I find it to be flexible. So I think gauge swatching is really important. So I will be putting out a tutorial on how you can gauge swatch for this before October 1st as part of this knit along. And also, after this video is posted, I'm going to post a video where I met with my friend Kelly on Zoom, and we talk about yarn choices. And I think you could watch that video with the intent of like, maybe you have a stash of yarn, and maybe watching that video could give you some inspiration of things you could grab from your own stash. Or maybe you have a local yarn store, and it would give you kind of some inspiration of things to look for when you go to your own local yarn store. And of course, on that video, I can share Kelly's link to her store as well, if there's anything specifically from there that you would want to pick up. So I definitely, for this knit along, want to have some video support along the way as we go through it, and so that's going to be part of it. But the other ways that you can participate in the knit along, I think, are twofold. So the first would be on Instagram. So I've checked, and it seems like the hashtag love note love knit along, love note love KAL, has not been used prior, so that can be our hashtag for this knit along. And So Instagram's a good place to participate in the knit along and post your pictures as you go with it, and I'll be following that hashtag and be able to see what you're doing and hopefully be able to comment. And I think the other way we could participate is on Ravelry if you use Ravelry. I've already created a thread in Ravelry that you could do some chatting and show some of your yarn choices and things like that. And then once it's appropriate, I will have a finished objects thread where you can post your finished objects. Okay, so I on Ravelry have posted some details of the knit along, and on Instagram I posted dates. So I thought I'd kind of talk through some of those details here. So we're going to be making the Love Note sweater by tincanknits, which I think I've mentioned, which is this one here. And I think this is a good first knit along for me to host because it is so size inclusive. I've mentioned this on a prior episode of podcast of mine, but I'll just say it again that it goes from sizes 0 to 6 months, which is 24.5 inches. No, that I think. Yeah, so 24.5 inches in circumference, and then it goes up to 5XL, which is 72.5 inches around. So I think that was something that I could see in my comments on some of my episodes about the importance of having tools and patterns that are size inclusive so people can participate. And so any size in there can be a part of the knit along. And I was thinking that the knit along will run from October 1st to December 1st with a cast on October 1st and completing it by December 1st. I was thinking that it was going to be like cast on October 1st and finish, just so we can have this like community aspect of us going through sort of the stages together with it. And so that's approximately 8 weeks to do this. And so how I decided on that was thinking about this idea that there's a range of sizes, so 24 inches in circumference to 72.5 inches in circumference. And so if you were knitting a 72.5 inch circumference, like, would it be enough 8 weeks is what I was thinking about. And so this is how I was thinking about it. So I was thinking this part to here, so the yoke, the lace part, allow 2 weeks. And it's done in a large gauge, so I do think that that's possible for all the sizes to do this in 2 weeks. And then I was thinking the next part here, this part of the body, another 2 weeks. I think if you're knitting a smaller size, like a child size one, or a size small, like maybe that won't take you 2 weeks. Maybe it would take you a week, or maybe you're a fast knitter. So I was just thinking 2 weeks should be enough to do this next part. So we're at 4 weeks. And then these sleeves for all the sizes they're not a full length sleeve, and I think they can go faster because of that, because they're not a full length sleeve and this is knit at a loose gauge. So I was thinking like a week for each sleeve. So we're at 2, 4, 5, 6, and then all that's left then is to finish the collar and block it. And so that's another 2 weeks to just finish the collar and block it, which I also thought would give some grace for if we fall off the timeline. So I was thinking, you of course don't have to knit it in that timeline. You could knit one of these in a week if you want, but that's how I decided on 2 months. I was also thinking it would be nice to finish by December 1st, because I know once December 1st comes around, there's holiday knitting and gift knitting and things like that. So I think that's pretty much all the other details I have posted on Ravelry. I just wanted to confirm. I think the one extra detail I have is that feel free to use this make along and double dip in other make alongs. For instance, I think the Grocery Girls, it's a giant podcast, like so many, who hasn't heard of the Grocery Girls? And I love watching them. And I think they're having a make-along. I think they announced their last one called Sweater Weather. So, you know, this is going to be a huge make-along. So why not participate in that one, Sweater Weather, and do this too. And so, yeah, so this is, you know, a fairly new channel. I think over a month ago started this, and this is my first knit along. So, you know, I'm going to do my best to make this fun, and I really am excited for you to participate. If you are a maker or, you know, something like this where you would be potentially interested in donating prizes for this, please reach out to me. I would love that. You can reach out to me at my email, professorpurlpodcast@gmail.com. I don't get a lot of DMs, so you could DM me on Instagram or even Ravelry. Anyway, if you are somebody who has commented on my last episode that you are interested in participating in this knit along and this interests you, I'm just so thankful. It's been just such a cool journey to start this channel and want to have community, and then propose a knit along and have so many people say that they would be interested in knitting along with me. So that was really exciting, and I'm just super grateful for that. There were a few comments where people expressed some hesitation around knitting the love note because of the mohair. And so if that's you, I would really encourage you to watch my yarn choices video that I'm going to be posting here on YouTube, because it's possible that as you watch the yarn choices, you'll find some alternatives that appeal to you, that you can get at your own local yarn store or find online. And I think the other kind of hesitations I saw in the comments around the love note were that people haven't knit a sweater before, and they felt sort of nervous about kind of diving into the sweater. So I thought I'd share, or kind of conclude with, why I think the love note is a good first sweater. So one of the reasons why I think the love note is a good first sweater is that it's knit at a large gauge, which means that the stitches are fairly large, and you should always gauge swatch, but you will potentially be knitting it on a larger needle. I did not knit this sweater, any of these 3 sweaters, at the recommended needle size. And so I guess so it recommends a US size 7 or a 4.5 millimeter, and a US size 10 or a 6.0 millimeter. So I think a lot of people knit not as loose as me. So I think you could potentially be knitting this on some big needles. And so that will make it be like a quicker sweater knit. I think the other reason why I think this would be a good first sweater knit along is it's very wearable. I think everybody looks really good in it. I have not seen any, I mean, there's so many projects of this if you follow the hashtag love note sweater or go onto Ravelry, and like everybody looks good in it. So that's always a promising sign. And also, I think you're capable of doing it. I think the lace, like if you haven't read a chart before, this is going to be such a good first lace pattern. It's, in terms of lace, like a very, I don't want to say easy repeat to minimize how people might be feeling about doing lace, but it is a very approachable lace chart. But you could also just leave the lace chart out. That's what I did. And this thing would turn out great. And I think the construction of it lends itself to being able to try it on and things like that. And so because this potentially, according to my comments, might be some people's first sweater, I do plan on putting out some video content as we work on this. Like I plan on having some videos on gauge swatching, provisional cast on, things like that. So, which I think are probably, in my opinion, the gauge swatch and the provisional cast on are probably the toughest part about the sweater, I think, is the beginning. And so, yeah, so thank you so much for coming by here and stopping by and watching this and considering participating in this knit along. So thank you.